What's up, guys, and welcome to the I Went to Fashion School podcast with me, Renata Hoga. Studying design at times can feel very overwhelming. Having to try and master lots of different skills for a single project is a lot. Spending hours designing, developing, and then making your ideas to styling, photographing, and creating a lookbook, studying fashion design can be intense. But let me assure you, it won't always have to be like that. That is, unless you want it to be. There are many job roles within the industry that allow you to specialize on a particular skill or area within the designing process. My next guest, Birmingham-born Jamaican Nyheke Lambert, realized while studying fashion design at the University of East London what aspects of the fashion design process she really enjoyed. Through interning and freelancing, she developed her skills and knowledge to a point where she was inspired to start her own pre-production atelier business, Nyheke Lambert Limited. Just a heads up, this conversation was recorded remotely from 2 separate locations, so there are a few minor technical issues, delayed responses, and overlap. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoy listening to our conversation. Also, feel free to leave a review or a comment, telling me what you think. Lastly, follow my Instagram page at I Went to Fashion School Podcast for updates on new episodes. And if you want to get in touch with me, I would love to hear from you. Welcome, Nye. If you'd like to just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Hello. So I am Nyheke Lambert. I am a British-born Jamaican and born and raised in Birmingham in the UK. Well, initially I was studying audiology. For those that don't know, audiology, an audiologist, I should say, is a hearing specialist or ENT specialist, and it's to do with the hearing. So essentially, a hearing doctor. Mm-hmm. But I felt like during the studies, I was more concerned about what I was wearing to a lecture as opposed to remembering my books and my pens and, on my study notes. And, naturally, I am very much a craft person ever since, primary school. I've always been a crafty person. Mm-hmm. And so, my interest at the time was clothing, and it just came up that I felt like I wanted to go into fashion design. Mm-hmm. And so I dropped out of that. That was Birmingham City University, and then I done a 1-year art and design foundation in Bourneville, and then I moved to London in 2010 or 11. I can't actually remember. To do a fashion design degree at the University of East London. Mm-hmm. So when I started there, I initially thought a fashion designer was someone who would be making the clothes also, but it's actually just someone who just comes up with ideas. And so whilst I was studying, I quickly realized that it was more the making part that I was into, and that wasn't necessarily what they were teaching on the course. Yeah. And so the degree was one that involved the 1-year placement. Mm-hmm. And it was really at that point where I started to find myself and find, where my strongest points were. Yeah. And so that actually led me to drop out of university and just go the internship route in learning on the job. Mm-hmm. And then once I done that, that's when I started Nyheke Lambert Limited. Well, actually, I started freelancing first. Yeah. And then when I realized that it was a viable sort of service that I was providing, I turned it into a limited company.
So you kind of came straight from doing like internships and learning about like the making side and the actual like hands-on sides of fashion to then decide, and actually I'm not so focused on the design and generating ideas, but I'm more focused on making and realizing garments that you then kind of just made your own business and started your own business from
and basically.
So obviously, like, fashion school was not what you anticipated it to be.
Not at all.
Yeah.
First of all, I thought it was going to be a bit more one-to-one-y. definitely not a word, but or a phrase. But I thought there would be, you know, a bit more attentiveness with the students and the teachers, but that was not the case. There was like 100 people in our class, and like 2 teachers, and so it was definitely a struggle to even get the teachers' attention. It was very much you kind of figure things out yourself.
Yeah, I can 100% like relate to that. It's really you're very kind of like independent, generating your own ideas, trying to work them, trying to realize them, but also you can tap into technicians and tutors and stuff, but definitely is a almost one-man show.
Definitely.
But
you literally rely on the other people on the course to kind of assist or help you, and that's even if they have the knowledge.
Exactly.
I sort of clinged on to a guy called Jake. Big up Jake Gooden. He was quite forward with the technicalities behind the making, and he was very much helpful, and I learned a few things from him. But I always felt like that shouldn't have been the case. I felt like that should have been taught by the actual teachers or a technician.
Yeah. No, I can definitely like see your perspective on that as well. But at the same time, I think because it is a creative industry, having that struggle on your own kind of helps kind of push you to innovate as well, and think outside the box and maybe come up with ideas that you wouldn't have gotten if you asked for help with somebody else. But talk to us about your interning and your like apprenticeships and those kind of placements where you realized what you actually wanted to get out of fashion.
Well, I think I was quite fortunate because my very first internship, which was for a company called the House of Billiam, it was exactly what I wanted to do. They were a company that specialized in bespoke bomber jackets.
Very
interesting. And it literally, it was there that I sort of learned how to do everything, really, all the basics of you know, construction. And it like that, I could have stayed there. I'd probably still be there now if he didn't suggest that I moved on. But it really was there that I kind of realized, oh, okay, like this is where, you know, where I'm supposed to be and what I enjoy. And yeah, and to be honest, if it wasn't for this first internship, I wouldn't have been able to do any, like the next internship and then the next internship, because it all, you know, made sense chronologically to, you know, do it the way I did it. So yeah, my first internship was House of Billiam, and that was specialized in men's, not well, actually it was women's also, bespoke bomber jackets. The second internship I did was actually for a women's wear brand, Minky Cheng, but it wasn't women's wear, like it wasn't super flamboyant, it was quite androgynistic. And so I still got to use the technical skills that comes with menswear type thing. And it was at that point where I was working very closely with a pattern cutter, a Korean pattern cutter who was dope. And like I learned so much from him because I was like his right hand assistant. Between those two roles, it was, you know, that's basically where I learned most of my skills. And actually, Minky Cheng, he offered me a paid role, a paid internship, and that was sort of the main reason that I dropped out of university, because I was like, you know what, why am I paying £9,000 for the year when I'm not actually learning nowhere near as much as I'm learning on this internship, and it's paid. So it was sort of an easy decision to make.
Nice. So the first internship was part of the
your course requirement to do an internship. But the second one was one that you then found off the back of that.
Yes, I did. But so the year placement, you're expected to do either 2 or 3 placements.
Oh, okay.
So so either way, I would have gone to the second one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to touch on 2 things. So like your roles, did you have to kind of like build up, like how big were the companies to begin with, and how did you what were all the roles that you were given as an intern?
I guess it's studio assistant roles that I went for.
Okay.
Because with that role, you literally get to see everything, and I wanted to know everything. So and that's from actually making jackets to putting the trash out and washing up and doing all the shitty jobs. But has to be done. And then gosh, I've lost my trail of thought. What was the question again?
The roles. So as a student assistant, like, did you get to do pattern cutting work, or like you've mentioned that you had to do like the admin kind of stuff of cleaning up and taking out trash, but did you ever get a chance to work on a pattern for a jacket or push any ideas? Or
everything. Yeah, all was included. Although I was just an intern, you were still expected to kind of come up with ideas and assist accordingly.
Do you think that you were able to play that part because of the size of the team, or they were really like hands-on and wanting you to be on board, or was it because it was quite a small team that your voice was being heard? Because obviously you hear stories about people going to bigger brands and they're kind of more in the shadows because there's already so many people and so many roles and hierarchies that it's quite difficult as an intern to kind of have a say. But how do you think?
So actually it's good you say that, because I intentionally applied for small company roles because I wanted to have that freedom and be really involved with what was happening within the business. I mean, it was the first 2 that was small. I then tried a bigger company, which was Marks and Spencer's, and that's the one that I enjoyed the least. But I guess it was purely because of that. It was too big for me to kind of have that intimacy, with the business. So yeah, my voice was taken serious, and I would actually advise people to go for smaller companies because it's more intimate and
that sounds it makes sense. And what would you say was a highlight of, I guess you said that the second intern was probably you liked the most, so what was like the highlight of being there?
I think the first one was actually my first favorite. Sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'd say the first one. The highlights would be working on celebrity pieces.
Okay.
I mean, within my second week of working at House of Billion, I was working on One Direction jackets, Perez Hilton jackets, Lana Del Rey, Labyrinth. Who else was there? Who else? We've done some jackets for Harvard University. What else? There was collaborations with other brands. And so that was, for me, the exciting part, working on such high profile pieces. And
do they get to come in and do fittings and things, or is it more of that you've got the sizes, you make the product and you send it off?
Pretty much. We were liaising with the stylist for the most part, as opposed to the actual artist. So yeah, it'd be a matter of the stylist kind of come around and telling us this and that.
Having that as well is quite a good insight to see the different middlemen and the different kind of individuals that play a part from like the garment being designed to actually it being worn for the client. There's quite a lot of people you have to liaise with to kind of get to the final outcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what would you say was like the most challenging part, or what did you kind of find? What did you struggle most with?
I'd probably say one would be when the client needs their garment ASAP. Like, it's an event coming up and they need a quick turnover, and everyone's running around like headless chickens trying to get this this thing done. Although it's nice when it's finished and you've made a deadline, it's not nice whilst you're running around like crazy. And then there's, thousands of mistakes happening. What else is difficult? One of the jackets I made at House of Billiam for Perez Hilton was there was a finish, like a pocket finish, that I wasn't familiar with, and so I messed it up, which meant that the stylist came back and was like, "Hey, what?" Like, to my boss at the time, was like, "Hey, this isn't good enough." So, and then he was like, "Oh, I realized that I didn't actually show you how to finish it, so it's kind of my fault." And then I was like, "No, it was my fault. I'm so sorry." Blah blah blah. But yeah, I think when things like that happen, that's not cool.
Yeah.
What else would be difficult? I guess being poor, because when you're interning, you have no money. You have no money. I literally interned for like 2 years, or maybe a year and a half to 2 years straight, with no job, just relying on my student loan. And so that, mate, like, yeah, trying to, have, I used to have 20p noodles every day for lunch. Wow. And I used to even jump barriers for travel because I couldn't afford to get around fully, but I would literally lie to like my boss and my mom and be like, "Yeah, I'm cool, like I have money, it's cool, it's fine." But because I was enjoying being there so much, you do what you have to do, and it's paid off.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
And I guess that is another downfall of like the fashion industry and just the internship kind of, because there are some places where they are willing to pay and they're willing to kind of like cover your travel, but some places they just don't have the budget to kind of cover you.
Of course people would want to pay, but if they can't, they can't.
Yeah, but I admire like your hustle and your grind. Like, you were out there trying to get that knowledge, that experience, and you were going to get it at all costs. That's it's admirable.
Exactly. Thank you. It's got to be done. I feel like it should be part of everyone's journey.
Yeah.
And it sort of just humbles you. It humbles you, because you've got to start somewhere, and it really is more important to have the knowledge as opposed to getting paid. And if you're able to stay at home with parents and live there whilst you do it, or with family members or whatever, do what you have to do.
Yeah. And the knowledge that you learned launched you to where you are now, I guess.
Exactly. So I would have no regrets.
It was all worth it.
Yes, exactly.
So you did what, a year and a half, or was it longer, of different like interns in different roles?
I think it was a year and a half. Yeah, I think it was a year and a half. So how it worked was I was at House of Billiam, then I went to Minky Cheng, then I went to Marks and Spencer's in their menswear design team. I then decided I hated Marks and Spencer's, and then I went back to House of Billiam.
Okay.
And then whilst I was at House of Billiam, he said, "Hey, Nye, I think you've learned everything that you can learn here. Maybe you should spread your wings." And then that's when Minky Cheng offered me the paid role.
And then you stayed there and then went off to then do your own business, or how did that?
Yeah, so I stayed there, and on the side I was freelancing.
Okay.
And then whilst freelancing, I would always have, a second stable form of income. So I've always been doing freelancing on the side. It wasn't until 2018 where I decided to fully sort of indulge in my services. You know, I've done all in between jobs to maintain, you know, my outgoings. I went to even work at Harrods in the tailoring department. But Harrods was my actual last job. It was there where I sort of decided I'm gonna see how far I can get by myself, and look, nicely, Harrods supported this. Initially, they let me go part-time, and then they said, go ahead, do your thing. If you ever need to come back, come back. So I said, cool.
Ready to do this.
Yeah. So I left there. I decorated my bedroom, literally turned it into a beautiful studio working space. And I would literally have clients come to my bedroom. I'd literally just have people come to my bedroom, and you know, the feel that I went for with my bedroom was like a, you know, just a clean kind of aesthetic, all white kind of vibe, and it worked. Like it actually worked. And then I was offered to sublet a studio space, which was in Camberwell. From there, that's where the real journey started, I guess.
Nice. And in this bedroom startup studio, what did you have, like, in terms of equipment?
I just had a flat bed, which is the main machine, and then I had an overlocker, so it was only those two.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it meant I was limited with what I could take on, but still could manage to do most work with those two machines.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just listening to your story, it's like when it's stuck. Like once you realize that actually I'm wanting to make stuff, I want to make things, and I want to realize people's ideas, you kind of just, you know, bam, 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 kind of like kept going for it. And yeah, you didn't, like, you know, basically what I'm trying to say, when the shoe fit, like the shoe fit, you were just ready to walk, like that's it.
And don't get me wrong, like people think that I knew what I was doing from the get in terms of whatever I was asked to do, I could do. No, I couldn't. I literally used to figure things out as I was going along. Like, yes, I would charge you a fee, but that fee I mean, for the most part, I was probably undercutting myself. It was more of a thing where it was like, you know, I just want to expand my knowledge and practice. And so I was happy to do subsidized kind of fees, you know. And pretty much to this day, I'm still figuring things out in terms of everything I get asked. I mean, I have an inkling of things to not, you know, like what not to take on if it's just completely out of my league. But there's still an essence of me knowing that I can figure something out. So yeah. I always say to people, I get paid to figure things out.
What kind of made you realize that you wanted to start your business as opposed to just continuing to freelance or continuing to, you know, get pattern cutting or seamstress jobs within other companies or other brands?
Well, it starts to conflict, doesn't it? Because if I'm working full time, it means I only have a limited amount of time to do my freelance stuff. Meaning, let's say from 6 p.m. to 11, 12, sometimes 3 in the morning would be when I would get to do my freelance stuff. And so you get to a point where you're like, this is how much I'm getting paid as a freelancer, and this is how much I get paid by whatever company I'm working for. And you kind of say to yourself, of course, if I put more time into the freelancing, I can get paid more. And I'm doing whatever I want. Like, I don't have to listen to a manager tell me what shifts I'm doing and all that. And so you kind of think, if if I actually made this a full-time thing, I can make a decent amount, and I can actually afford, my way.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that was the deciding factor, is just seeing how much money you could earn as a freelancer, and having to almost decline clients or delay clients, and saying that I can do the work, but it, not until, a few months down the line, because I'm fully booked, type thing.
Yeah.
So I guess that was it. Just figuring out, how much
you'd rather kind of put your time toward freelance rather than another company.
Exactly.
That's cool. And you also said that you kind of there are certain roles, certain jobs that you don't take. And was that also a factor that kind of contributed, in the sense that actually some of the jobs that you were doing for the other companies were not necessarily the things that you wanted to do, and you'd much rather, focus on the areas that you do specialize in, so like tailoring and menswear ish?
So I think over the years, what I've realized is that not all work is good work. You've sort of got to focus on the jobs that pay enough, really. For example, with my skill set, I can do, like, as a pattern cutter and a seamstress, there's many roles that I can do. I can be a tailor, which is why I was at Harrods, which means you're doing alterations. Or you can, I don't know, you could be someone that, for example, a church needs a new curtain, or Tom down the road needs, I don't know, what's something in the household that would need amending, or I don't know, Thomas needs pillowcases made or something. It means you can literally jump into, all different aspects that pertain to sewing. And so what I've kind of over the years solidified is the work that actually brings money in, as opposed to something that is quick money but takes long. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that like the services that I've now focused on is just simply pattern cutting and sewing of garments, as opposed to doing odd jobs that don't really pay the bills, unless you have loads and loads and loads and loads of that kind.
To make it worth the time.
Yeah.
And then, like, as you were kind of like starting that, were you pitching for just men's as well, or were you pitching more towards like bespoke tailoring? Or
for the most part, I'm mainly menswear trained. I don't know much about women's, to be honest. And so I tend to kind of sit in the menswear.
And like what you just said now, in terms of like not all work is good work, I think it's a really key part, key advice, and something that I'm learning as well, that just because you can do it doesn't mean it's going to be worth the while. So while you were starting and kind of figuring all of this out, did you have mentors or business advisors to kind of help you realize these kind of key nuggets of information?
So the first internship that I was at, House of William, Tom, the owner of that, he became my mentor and is still my mentor to this day. I feel like when it comes to my mentor, I admire him so much, to the point where I feel like I've definitely repeated his footsteps. That's including his bad habits and good habits. I've lost my trail of thought again.
Tom, your mentor.
So Tom, my mentor. Tom's my mentor and is still my mentor to this day. I usually only go to him if I have already exhausted all my options and I literally do not know what to do. Because I just don't believe in using, abusing a mentor. Like
Yeah.
you have to make your own mistakes. You
Mm-hmm.
have to kind of figure some things out by yourself, it's very important to make mistakes. I've made so many mistakes over the years. But yeah, I do have a mentor. It's Tom, and he's always there whenever I need him.
That's amazing. And you kind of get advice from Tom in terms from Tom in terms of like business structure, or also like everything and anything to do with like the process of producing garments for people.
I'd say more business.
Okay.
Structure-y. Yeah, I'd say more businessy structures. Even though I know my clients the best,
mm-hmm.
he understands my clientele also.
Yeah.
And so yeah, more businessy. And in terms of like moving forward and bigger plans,
mm-hmm.
I would definitely ask him, what he thinks is the best way to go about it. Or I will present him with my options, and then he would kind of say, this one's the best one to go with. And he's very much bish bash box. He just it makes things sound so easy and straight to the point. That's what I love about him.
That's always good, because when you're in that state of like, I don't know what's happening, you really kind of need a light in the right direction.
Exactly.
That's great. And what's the biggest lesson that you've learned with starting your own like business?
I'm not a very good business person. Because I tend to think with my heart as opposed to, having a business cap on.
Mm-hmm.
Every person that approaches me, I want to help them.
Yeah.
And it turns out that I guess it's the same thing with not every work is good work. You know? But that's it. It really tears me inside to say no to someone when I know I can help.
Yeah.
But I guess now, these days, it's easier to say no because I have staff now, so I can just simply explain to the person asking that, hey, look, it doesn't make much sense financially to do this job. Whereas I feel like before they would sort of be like, come on, like you can do it. I'm sure you can do this for me. Blah blah blah. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of sticking to your guns and being like, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, basically. And then also just knowing the service that I provide, it's so niche and unique that you're hardly gonna get it the same service anywhere else. I don't know of anyone that does what I do.
Yeah.
Or has the sort of skill set that I have combined, because usually you're usually a pattern cutter or a seamstress.
Yeah.
It's never usually combined. And so that unique skill set that I have, it allows me to just assist a broad amount of work.
Yeah. And it also means that you can follow through all the way to the end. Like,
yes, exactly.
You don't just kind of start
literally
and like somebody else to kind of get to the end point. You're kind of there from beginning to end. And since we're talking about like your service and your skill set, let's talk about what a client would kind of like, the process that they would go through if they were to come for you for your services. So where would it begin? So
let me just explain that what the business is sort of split into two sections. One is bespoke attire, and that's sort of people who, it's generally like people who are like artists who are on tour and they maybe need a specific outfit for their tour, or if they're doing a red carpet they might need a specific outfit, or it could be Bob down the road who just maybe he just wants a specific shirt. So that's that side. And then the other side, which is sort of makes up 80% of the business, is helping with startup companies. And that's literally anyone. If you want to start a clothing line, I'm the person you would come to kind of assist you and hold your hand along the whole process.
And that's in terms of production,
and that's in terms of everything. That's from you coming up with a crazy idea that's never been done before, to someone who just wants to make basic things to be sold. You know, I've worked on many things, most of which I can't mention because I sign a lot of NDAs these days.
Yeah.
Which is annoying really, because I can't really show off with the kind of projects that I'm working with or working on sometimes. So that's how the process works. So if you are a startup company, what I'd suggest is that you have either sketches, reference images, or CAD drawings or spec drawings. Now, I work with people of all different types of levels. So I don't mind if you approach me with like a stick drawing or something, as long as as long as you can sort of get your vision across to me, then we're fine. I work with all levels, but I definitely need to see visuals of what you're trying to achieve. You have to know exactly what it is that you want before approaching me. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a designer. I literally just bring your ideas to life. So you have to present me with your idea so that I can tell you the best way to go about it in the most efficient, cost-effective way, most ethical way, the most sustainable way as possible. And I almost not teach you, but you are definitely involved in the whole process. You give me the green light through the whole process.
Wow.
When we're doing fittings, you're telling me, yep, this is correct, or no, this is wrong. You're green lighting everything. And so, which is why I pretty much have a very low what they would consider a return rate, because the client really is giving me the green light through every process. Are you happy with this? Yes. Okay, we're moving to the next. If you're not happy, we're not moving from this step.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's so many steps.
Yeah.
Gosh, there's so many steps, which means there's so many room for mistakes. But yeah, it's pretty much what you need to present me with visuals of what you're trying to achieve. And then you've got to be realistic about your timeline, because it's not starting a clothing line isn't something that is done overnight. It takes months. It takes months and months and months. Unless, of course, you're just doing up to a sample.
Yeah.
But if you're doing production also, it takes a while.
In terms of production, do you then do like batch production and like mass production, or is it just kind of like the sample stage, and then you can you kind of then transfer all the work that you've done to like bigger factories who can do like the mass?
Yeah. So how it works is every single piece that I'm approached to do, we do all the development in-house.
Okay.
Because the aim is to have control over the fit, because I'll talk about it later, but the whole idea is to have control of the whole fit. Once we're happy with the fit, or the client's happy with the fit, it then gets handed over to my manufacturer partner that I work with in China, who will then do your sample and your bulk run. Yeah, so or your patterns will get digitally sent to the manufacturer, and they basically take over from there. They do your sewing and your sourcing of materials.
And yeah, I think you do kind of live up to that statement, like bring your ideas to life, because like having studied and tried to kind of like realize some of the ideas that I have, you kind of come quickly to the realization that actually just because you can see it in your mind doesn't mean your hands can physically realize the image that you're seeing in your hands, because it does take a lot of time and a lot of skill, a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge on construction and just the technical side, that sometimes the outcome is never what you expected it to be. And I think a lot of the time the outcome is never what you envisioned it to be. But as a junior designer, as somebody that's starting, the expectation and the reality are much wider apart than if it was somebody who was a little bit more experienced. But knowing that there is like a business like yours out there willing to help people realize their ideas, even if they're not as skilled even drawing, is great, because the struggle is real. Like when you can't realize your idea, it's frustrating, and your skills don't stretch that far.
A perfect example is a client that I'm working with now. Actually, they are working on some extremely premium jackets. Now, like I said, I talk people through the whole process. You are there with me. You're giving me the green light for every single process to go to the next step. Now, they gave me the green light for everything. They're happy with how everything's going. Now, once I made the final sample, they then decided, oh, actually, this is not what I envisioned.
Oh, okay.
Now that puts them in a pickle, because they've given me the green light for everything so far, and they've seen the first sample, and they don't, not that they don't like it, but it's not completely what they envisioned.
Yeah.
So now they are going back to the drawing board, and they've chosen different fabric, they've added things here, they've taken away things there, and we're now having to do the sample round again, which basically means they've had to pay twice.
Oh, wow.
So it just goes to show, like, even initially when you think you have the perfect idea in mind, and then you see it in physical form, you might want to backtrack. And and the thing is, I can't take this personal that they don't like the first sample, because like I said, they've given me the green light for every step of the way. But it just goes to show, like, if you have an idea, you can't expect it to be correct the first time. Maybe you want to amend things and change things here and there, and I'm just here to assist you, really.
And it just also highlights, like, the creative process is not a vertical process, it's very lateral. Sometimes you have to kind of like start from the end and go back to the beginning, or you have to start in the middle, go back to the beginning, go back to the end. It is very like, it's not a one-way street, like it's a roundabout.
And it's not, the thing is, it's exactly why I feel I have the sort of consistency with work that I have, because, for example, most people would think to go directly to a manufacturer to get their idea to come to life, but manufacturers hate people who don't know exactly what they want. All they want is the pattern and the quantity. They don't want to do any faffing around, any testing, any no back and forth. They just want to know exactly what you want to do and get on with it. And I think that's the mistake that most people make when starting up, in going to straight to a manufacturer. You literally have to find an Attire like myself, or a freelancer who can basically, where you can have that one-on-one sort of relationship to develop your idea and finalize and experiment with your idea before going to a manufacturer.
Exactly. And I think that's something that's not really highlighted, the fact that sometimes you're making a top, but you might have 5 or 6 different versions of that top before you actually get the top in the right way, in the way that you actually want it. And people don't realize how stressful and nerve-wracking and time-consuming that can be, because sometimes things just don't go the way you planned. And I do think your business is definitely needed, and it is something that
I have people approach me and like, oh my god, I can't believe I found you. Like, I've been needing this for so long. Like, most of the people that come are actually people who have had bad experiences with manufacturers, and then they've come to me. So it's almost like I'm fixing all the mistakes sort of thing. But I guess it's because, like, for me, I've not really done any form of marketing or anything with my business. If I were to, I think I'd be even busier. But my thing is that I want me and my little team to stay consistent with quality, and I don't want us to be overwhelmed with work, because if we're rushing, it means mistakes are happening. So we tend to not exceed any more than 10 projects at a time. And it's sort of, when one is finished, we accept one more. As another one finishes, we accept more. So it has to trickle down the timeline nicely. Basically, we can't, get overwhelmed or anything.
And you mentioned that you haven't done, like, you're not like heavily focused on like marketing, but how do people know about you, or how do you get yourself out there, as in a controlled way, like you said?
Honestly, word of mouth does really good for me, and then Instagram, wherever I have a lot of people stumble on my Instagram page. But literally, apart from those two, I mean, I've done an ad here and there on Instagram, but like proper real, like setting a budget aside for marketing, I've not done that yet. However, I might soon, because I've just moved into a new studio, and I have real rent to pay now. I have staff to pay now, So yeah, I do intend for the work to be super consistent, so that everyone can get paid and all the bills are getting paid.
It's true. That's money. So let's just do a little rewind. So you kind of did fashion school, and then preferred to do like internships and learning on the side, and being more hands-on. And then from there, you gain this experience and this knowledge and this understanding of the industry, that you wanted to kind of start off your own business. And you've started that up, in your bedroom, and then you kind of moved out to have your own studio, and then now you kind of just moved to another studio, so it's quite bigger. Now you've kind of got a team as well. So how is that? How did you go around finding that team and making sure because once you work with yourself, it is quite hard to kind of get out that bubble to be like, I can share this this burden, I can share this load with other people, and I can trust you. But so how did you get around that? And did you struggle with being like, okay, give them responsibility now, you can trust them, you don't have to do it all by yourself? How was that?
To be honest, we're still in I think it's only been 2 months really since I've had the team, and so we're very much still in the phase of them getting to know how I work, and we're still solidifying structure within the business and a smooth kind of sailing process. So it's still all pending right now, and I sort of, when clients approach me these days, I'm very transparent with my clients in terms of what's happening and stuff. And so there have been a few teething issues recently, and I sort of just explained to the clients that, hey, listen, it's a transition for me. I've now got staff, they're all learning how I work and blah 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 blah, so please bear with us. If anything happens, we will do our best to sort of sort things out and make sure you feel happy. But yes, it was definitely a tricky process in kind of bringing people in, especially because it's my baby. This business is my little baby that I've grown for how many years, and you just kind of hope that people are going to treat and have the same passion towards your clients as you. So it has been tricky, and I have had a few false starts prior to recently, but I'm very happy with my team right now. Everyone has the skill sets and experience and knowledge that I need them to have, and really it's just about creating the structure within the business currently. So far so good.
And what does that team consist of? Like, what are the roles?
So I have a women's wear specialist,
Nice.
I have a menswear and when I say specialist, that's in pattern cutting and sewing. So I have a women's wear specialist, menswear specialist. I then have a digital pattern cutter and grader.
Okay.
I then have a CAD or spec sheet maker. And then there's me, who is head of production.
So there's 5.
There's 5 of us, yes.
Wow. And yeah, I think it's good that you've also got the women's wear specialist, because now you're kind of like pushing
slowly.
Target market. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I feel like I have the, all the right people on the team.
Yeah.
Now it's just about sort of seeing how it goes. I would say like only one of them are permanent though. The rest are freelancers.
Yeah.
Because of course I'm still up and coming. Like I can't, be tied down with promising salaries and stuff. So it's definitely on a freelance basis for them. Yeah.
No, but that is exciting, and good luck with creating that synergy and getting that workforce, building your empire.
So far so good.
Yes, I think we're nearing more to the end of the conversation. Like on the kind of landing this plane, what advice do you have for like people starting their own business?
It really depends what it is they're trying to do.
I'd say let's be a bit more specific in the question. So what advice would you give to people starting the business within the production and maybe fashion construction?
Well, definitely I'd say I'm a person that just believes that you need to work within the whatever it is you want to do, work for someone doing that first.
Yeah, be a student first, kind of.
Yes, exactly. So be a student first and absorb, literally, when I say absorb, I'm talking to the point where even every day going with a notepad and write, daily journals on what's happened, what's going good with the company, what's going bad. Just use it as your sort of tester. I always say use other people's money before you use yours. Meaning do all your mistakes and stuff with the company you're working for. And just really learn, learn what you could do, what they're missing, what they could do better. And then just be mindful of that when you start your own stuff. Minimize your outgoings. Therefore, if you're able to work from home, do this. And maybe, because I mean, at one point, I went from work from home fully, meaning I would have clients come to the house. Let's say to the bedroom, I should say. And then I went from that to having a studio. But after that studio, I had a hiccup where I couldn't afford to run the studio, so I went back home. But then because I went back home, I didn't like the fact that clients were coming to my home. So what I did was I rented, I used like a co-working space where clients could come and we could do fittings there. As opposed to the clients coming to the house. So I'd just say be mindful with your outgoings. You want to keep them as minimal as possible, and just work within your means, like, and just be, passionate. This isn't a career you can do where it just focuses on income. You have to have passion for this. You have to care about your clientele. You have to care about the work that you're providing, and people will come back. Loyalty is a big thing. I have very loyal clients who will not go anywhere else. But to me, they've traveled. If I've moved, I'm somewhat of a nomad. If I've moved, they will travel 100 miles for my service. It's that kind of loyalty you want to get from your clientele.
Yeah.
So do a good job.
Yeah.
And
That's
just be honest
amazing.
with them. Be transparent. Like, you know, people, if there's a delay with things, just tell them what's going on. Like, it's people don't like to be blindsided for the most part. If you explain to them what's happening, then they're more likely to understand and, you know, still come back. Because even if you make a mistake, it doesn't mean that the client won't come back. They will come back if you're honest with them and open with them, or
That's
if you rectify the situation. So it's just be transparent with clients. Be honest with them. If you're not comfortable taking something on, either don't do it or let them know you're not comfortable doing it, but you're going to try it. What else? What else? I'd say always have some form of terms and condition in place.
Yeah.
From the very start. I'm not talking, do not do any verbal sort of terms and conditions. I think it should all be written down on what the exchange is and what happens if something goes left, so that everyone's clear with what's happening. And I think that's my advice.
No, that was great advice. And I think the last bit is very important as well, because it's really good to have like a clear expectation of what you're expecting from me and what I'm expecting from you, and if anything should go wrong, what, you know, we're going to do about it, because it is a long process, you know. Sometimes it takes, you know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months, and a lot can happen in that space. And if you're not clear from the beginning, you know, a lot of misunderstanding can come about because there isn't that, you know, frame that we're working at. But yeah, that's amazing advice, and thank you for sharing those. And what's the end goal for the business, or like what's, like, if you're happy to share, it doesn't necessarily have to be the end goal, but like what are you what's the next thing on your like radar to kind of accomplish part of the business?
I've got an end goal.
Ready.
I to be honest, there's quite a lot of things I'm trying to get up to, but my ultimate goal is to be able to have a co-working space that really helps, let's say, school leavers, or just people who just want to get into sewing. I want to really have, if you imagine, a membership sort of co-working space where you can literally just come and use the resources, the tools, the space, and everything, you know, and almost build a community of sewers and pattern cutters, really. Because I know how it is. I know exactly how it is for students. The sewing room closes at 6 p.m. or so, and if you got a deadline, that is no good. If you got momentum at, let's say, 5:30, and you're getting told you have to leave, it's no good. You want to be able to just get on with your work in peace and quiet, and have your space, you know. And even for people who, you know, they try and rent a studio in London, it's extremely expensive. And if they're able to, you know, pay a monthly fee to use this space, it would make more sense. And then actually being around nothing but sewers and pattern cutters and people within the fashion community, it would just create a lovely environment and community, you know. So that's my ultimate goal, is to have a co-working space where people can come and use the facilities.
That's amazing. I love that idea. It's almost like a gym, you know, when you're just like, there's like 6 treadmills and 6 running.
Exactly that.
That's ace. That I'd love to see that. Like, sign me up.
And then I would, you know, I would get elite sort of lecturers and business owners within the fashion community that would come and do talks. And, you know, inspire people. And like you could almost see it as a little bit of an academy.
That's
you know,
so cool.
Like I'm actually really for the young people. I understand their struggle. I have students reach out to me all the time to ask if they can come and use, I don't know, a certain machine that I own, or need guidance on something. And so I know that it's something that's in demand, and once people, you know, find out about it.
Mm-hmm.
It, I feel, it'd be a no-brainer.
Wow, yes. I'm pumped. That is needed. Like,
hope for it to be a 24-hour working space also, because I know how it is.
Yeah.
Once you have that momentum and you need to get something done,
you need to keep going.
Literally. So it's gonna happen. It's just a matter of time.
I love that. I'll be like keeping my eye out. Just to finish off, where can people find you?
You can find me at Nyheke Lambert LAMBERT, and that's on everything pretty much. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, although I don't really use Facebook. And then www.nyhekelambert.com.
Lovely. And thank you so much for coming on here and talking about your story and sharing all these excellent nuggets of advice and information.
Thank you.